to light piano and put out as like a track. That would be amazing. I can give you some inspirations if you want.
Well, we'll see. I'm not sure. I'm not sure
One
we'll
of my
get.
favorite one of my favorite Jay Electronica tracks is the first 7 minutes is just people talking about him. It's like Erykah Badu with piano just being like, when I first met Jay Electronica.
Shit.
Light piano.
Yeah. Okay. So Alyosha here on page 87, right?
Okay.
Now analyze many of the imaginative methods of the mnemonics, and you will find that the object of this science is to bring to the foreground the spontaneous memory which was hidden, and place it as an active memory at our service.
Yeah.
To this end, every attempt at motor memory is to begin with suppressed.
Yeah, okay, so that's kind of the thing we were talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, so he's going to say like the normal way people attempt to learn things is by creating the habits within the motor memory. But
Right.
then like the people who study memory techniques are working on this way to work instead with the spontaneous memory as opposed to the motor memory.
Because I suppose insofar as
Matter and
like,
memory.
well, because interestingly, in the earlier section, he actually says that the will is more involved with the habit memory than with the recall memory, which you would, in a common sense, you would usually reverse those. But I suppose if you could,
I created a live chat, by the way. If you want to post in there what you're talking about, I'd love to read it.
oh, nice.
Oh,
But yeah, if you could put that to the service, if you could put the kind of memory that is not so good at the voluntary will aspect in the service of it in some way, then it's like that thing with the interpreters I was giving you the example of. Like those people can they can recall insanely long lists of things just having been told it or reading it once. And it does kind of work like this. It's based on this kind of like image memory. But
anyway, so I wanted to just take a little bit of time because we are in it's a unique moment that we've got here. We have been doing this for a year. I know most of you have been here for that long, if not almost that long. Who here has been here from like the first like 2-3 weeks?
I will, sure.
That'd be me.
Yeah, Ben too, I think, and Jack and Alyosha. I think all of you.
Nope.
No, I mean, I joined the server really early, but all I was doing was posting memes for like the entirety of the first read through.
yeah, my legacy is advocating for a separate meme channel. But I think you guys hadn't started AO yet, but I don't think it was the first. Like, I think there was still a little bit of time before that.
I was about 3 to 5 weeks in. I think you guys were at 1.4, 1.5 when I started listening.
Jesus.
Yeah, you had just finished chapter 1 when I started trying to listen to the live streams.
Yeah, it's
podcast.
It's a weird. I've just been kind of going through like the thoughts about the year and the sort of emotions around it, and it's an extraordinary, super weird thing. I mean, it just is. When the quarantine first started, and that's where our names came from. Varun, Kent, Roger for sure. Will was there day one. I think Bob Hope as well. I want to say. Doug, who hasn't been around on the server anytime recently, but is around somewhere in theory. But like that first few days, like the first day, I remember sitting on Reddit and it was just like, okay, so we're going to get a break from work. That's what everyone kind of thought this was going to be like a 2-week thing. Here we are a year later, which is fucked up in itself. But when we started the reading, we were doing, so this is why I'm pretty sure most of you were actually earlier than you think, because we weren't doing one reading a week, one section a week, or we were doing 4. We were doing 4 readings a week, which is too much. And it took 3 weeks for us to pull back and do 2 a week plus a review. And then, no, not the first week. Not the first week. We were doing Like, so it was the way that we did the readings for the first one, you can go back and listen to it, is we did an overly close reading where we would just sit and have discussions about every paragraph for a while. And we didn't really care about it because at this point, no one had anything else to do. Like, everyone, even people with like minimum wage jobs, everything had been fully shut down. No one's doing shit. Everything's closed, like done. And so everyone just had time. So we like sat around for like 2 hours, and then we did another 2 hours the next day. And we like the first section of AO, I think we did. It took 2 straight days, like 6 hours total. We ended up Craig ended up editing it down quite a bit. But it was a horrifying sort of thing. And then at some point, I was like, look, I can't keep this up. We can't do this. That was when like Craig left the server and decided to start Acid Horizon. And it was like, okay, we need to slow down. I can only do one a week. And we had people angry. Like, we had people genuinely angry leaving the server, writing me pretty nasty notes that they didn't want to spend that long reading AO.
Little did they know how long it would really take.
That they nailed it. They said it would be December. They said that. I was like, oh, I was like, I'm fine with that. And they said some choice words. A few people were nice about it, but they all, quit the server, blocked me. It's a whole thing. Drama, drama, drama. And then we kept that up for a little bit, and then we slowed down again. And then that's when I think it was Jack. Were you the first person to say I want to do another reading?
I think so. So when we started reading our toast done with the judgment of God, it kind of literature kind of springboarded off that. So we did a little bit more Arto, and then it was Kafka, and then we just started rolling with it.
Yeah, because Craig had done a handful of readings. He did a Bataille. He did Mark Fisher, Capitalist Realism, and I think from there people just wanted to do a lot more side readings, and you just jumped in. You were like, "I'll happily
Don't
take
forget,
that one on."
we did Klasowski. That was one of the
Oh,
first ones
Klasowski,
we did
that's
as
right.
well.
That's right, Klasowski. That was great.
But I think you're right that lit kind of popped up as this kind of like, at least I'd always thought of it as this like respite from the main reading, because it was like, although we could read difficult text, it was kind of, it wasn't something as dense necessarily. It was open to more interpretation, kind of more relaxed atmosphere. Although for whatever reason, we ended up reading like The Birth of Tragedy and fucking Towards the Philosophy of the Act, Bakhtin. All this stuff is related, but it's like incredibly dense. But
Yes,
anyway, I think literature found its feet eventually.
this is true. I think this is true.
Do you mean, wait, just to clarify, did somebody read Klasowski, or did they read Class Straight?
Oh wait, no,
Sorry, you're right.
he did
Class
Class
Straight.
Straight. Yeah.
Yeah, it was Class Straight, not Klasowski. Yeah, you're right.
Really
It
like
was the
other
ethnography and
ones.
psychology one. Yeah, you're like, what? I miss Klasowski?
Yeah, for real. That I'd like to suggest him, but it's hard to find. It's hard to find translations and everything.
We just got to get you. One of the cool things we've got accidentally happening here is like homegrown translators. Now, having been one in my life and an interpreter, I don't advocate forcing people to work for free, but it sure is nice to have someone just randomly throw you a translated PDF of Gotari's obituary, because I don't think I could get that anywhere else.
No, and I know I have abused Roger probably more than most on this, where it's just like, hey, can you just do me a favor, read the French version of this text and translate it? I need it. Yeah. And it's been a weird group as we've sort of gone, because when we lost Craig early on and he decided to go do Acid Horizon, that left me. I'm so sorry. In sort of this weird position of being in charge of a reading where I literally have no idea what I was doing. I think I faked it fairly well for a while. I think I faked it fairly well, actually, most of the time, but it was painful. The first couple weeks, especially, we're starting to patch back up as we're doing the rereading of all of this. And I I don't know, as I'm going and we're like catching up, I try to go back and re-listen to the original so I can be like, how much has my understanding grown, so I can kind of be aware of my own delta. It's like, holy shit, it's night and day. And I genuinely believe it's I'd love to say it's me. I mean, that is the way that that's the way the desiring machines work. Oh, that's me. But it's not. It's the nature of sort of the weird discussions that we had along the way, and how we just asked questions and everyone had stuff. It was very unique. And the fact that I get to have great moments for me is as we neared the end and we started having discussions, and Terrence and a handful of other real Deleuzian scholars who really study this shit. Like, we have conversations or whatever, they'll make just the nicest comments about like, oh, I agreed with you. You made an excellent point. And I'm like, oh, I made a good point. Like, I feel all proud. Because the early shit, man, it's rough to listen to. It's deeply unpleasant for me to listen to. Like, I've debated deleting it. I'm not going to, but I've seriously debated just deleting it all. It's bad. It's bad. It's bad.
Yeah, and I think it's what's also really bad is I think some people, reading that you can really hear, the voices, because I like the Supreme Overlord Brooks, more than the basically the mismatch of different accents and people clashing with yeah, mics, etc. So yeah, I think you've come a long way, Brooks, and I also like to point out that your orating skills have basically progressed significantly. So that's just a little um, I think pointer which we can make, after a year, that is something, of a guideline, because we're all familiar with Brooks, who's been orating since the very first session, and still more and still more. And yeah, I really think you should maybe try something with that, after COVID, and you can talk to, like, I don't know, like people in, how do you say that in America? You have like those
Motivational
Palliative care.
speakers.
motivational speakers. Yeah, sell me a pen, Brooks.
Yes.
Joe, I thought you were going to say palliative care.
Oh,
You
no,
know, for
no.
people who are dying.
No, it was going to end with me being Anthony Robbins. That's what it was going to be.
Oh, okay.
Uh,
But I think this would be a good time for us to all do our best Brooks. I'll start. The symbolic order. No, that hold on. The symbolic order. I just can't go that low. I can't do it.
it's
Symbolic
one
order.
of the things I've done, and it's most of my life. I only started realizing it with therapy is a wonderful thing. It turns out that I had internalized my deep voice because I saw it as an issue. And so I actually raised my voice intentionally and taught myself over time to have a higher voice. Seriously.
Oh yeah, I do the fuck out of that.
And
People get like upset when I talk to them without like raising my voice like up to like this register.
they do, because normally you can talk however you do. And when you actually talk with like a really baritone voice to people, they assume you're being very strange. And there's really not a lot of room to have that conversation. So you tend to talk a little higher because it registers better and it talks better. It's a thing. So over time, especially these with all of this, this whole thing's been a learning lesson. I was talking with Bob Hope earlier, and Bob Hope is putting together a little bit of someone is finally doing a zine for this goddamn project we've got. I was hoping it was going to be me, but I've given up on that. But part of the thing has been, I'll take the compliment. My oratory skills have grown, my rhetoric in general, but I would say also my writing, because writing, I've got the fiction thing and I've got the articles for whatever, but actual deep, interesting philosophical writing or critical theory writing is a different beast, and I fucking suck at it. But all of you people have been exceptionally supportive and very, very kind, and spending time you don't have to help me do that. And I know help each other as well. And it's kind of this amazing. I like to think I do the same with as many of you as possible as well. But we have a very interesting chemistry because of that kind of mentality that I'm just very excited about. And it's been one of the best parts of this server, just randomly. So it's been a oddly good friend making space for comrades, to say the least.
Yeah, man. My thing is I always go back to the Ellen Rooney article. If I don't know if I've forced that upon y'all yet, but she had an article called "The Semi-Private Room." That's how I think of these spaces. Where she's like the strength of a classroom space is that it's not quite public and it's not quite private, and that it's semi-private and allows for certain things to happen. It's kind of topical actually, for other reasons. But anyway, it's such a unique space, and I love that. Like, I'm somebody who I just did an undergrad, tried to do grad school, kind of fucked and failed out of that for different reasons, and just spent a lot of years in like NGOs and doing like political work and whatever, and always interested in this stuff, but never really having an outlet for it, and kind of subconsciously knowing that I couldn't really do it on my own without some kind of support or community. So coming into it kind of by accident, I love that there's this weird, fragile kind of pseudo structure we have here where people can come, and kind of doesn't matter if you're an expert or not, but there's like an encouragement to try things out, maybe get them wrong, and just keep trying until you feel comfortable. And anyway, that's been really valuable to me. Like, I'm reading more theory and philosophy than I ever have. So kudos to everyone, you know.
Yeah, it's the weird private public space, as you say. I think that I like that combination because it's also, um, I mean, we haven't been perfect on it by any means. I'm not saying so, but I like to believe that we've been a generalized safe space. One of the things that philosophy like this tends to pull uh, is not normal people. Don't know how else to put it. I'm sorry, I'm not normal. None of us are. We're strange in the sense of the what Deleuze would actually call a minority. Not that, but like we're not part of the majority and kind of various different setups. And none of us are. I don't know anyone here who is. And the ability for people to be just kind of what they are and just be kind of upfront about it and just that. And we haven't had in a year, we haven't had like any major all of our shit, like, cause we've had drama, but like not even close to what a lot of these communities, especially philosophy and especially Deleuze communities, have. But um, I'm actually really proud that we've got that because we have people who are, and I'm improving. I'm a dipshit when it comes to like, you know, proper pronoun usage. It's not malicious. I'm just an idiot. There's a difference. You know, being just generally kind to people and nice to people, and I like to think we've done that. And it's that we're not perfect, but God, it's been really nice to see. I'm really proud of it. I don't know, just my thoughts, just my opinion. Yeah, it's been good. And I don't know. Any thoughts on that? Anyone else? Okay. So I've also had awkward silences grow on me because it's one of the things, and it's the hardest thing. It's the reason it's the reason linear recordings don't work for philosophy discussions, and podcasts need the touch of what Craig does with Asset Horizon, which is an extensive amount of editing and very carefully placing things and setting it up. Real discussions around philosophy have this thing called an awkward pause because you'll say something that people don't have a bullet in the chamber for. They just don't. And uh, it's you got to sit back and you got to go, wait, okay, so what are they saying? How can I respond? and those awkward pauses have grown on me immensely because it just means that someone has said something that everyone's kind of just taking a second.
I actually really like that perspective, thinking about that, Brooks, because I mean, I definitely struggle with like weird silences a lot and like people being quiet for a while after I say something. But thinking about that is like, oh, people are just thinking about what you just said, you know, like people are trying to like process it. It's like, I like that perspective. I think that's interesting.
It's been my experience that that's the case.
A ton of my life experience as a kid is like based on the Nickelodeon show Pete and Pete. And there's like a whole episode where the older Pete brother is like trying to learn to be okay with sitting with in the car in silence with the dad who won't like let them listen to the radio or music or whatever when they're in the car. And like it really just like taught me as a kid to just like be okay with sitting in awkward silences.
Yeah, Brooks told me taught me about that. But I think like awkward silences are generally when you are with friends, they're never awkward. So I don't know, if if you can learn to make friends with like Nickelodeon shows, I think that's great. That's a great feat of, I suppose, Nickelodeon. I watched a lot of SpongeBob, and I just uploaded like Burno the Burno, which is like a great. Wait, maybe the link is still no, it's not. Look it up. I think everybody should look up Burno the Burno and learn something about friendship. So that's something I'll be doing. Thanks, Ben. Great input.
You're not awkward with your friends, Joe?
I don't have any friends. I am on
Oh, okay.
Discord.
I wasn't
I-
expecting that. Well
I-
played.
I was gonna
No,
say,
no.
I was gonna say that's basically what my answer would be too. Like I don't, I have a handful of very very close friends, and then the discussions I have in here, I will tell you, are deeper and more interesting than the vast majority of my real world conversations because my life is essentially about trying to figure these things out. So like this is what I care about. My brain can't handle doing anything else. So it's like, now what? Like, so we have another chat, we have another, and randomly we end up in some odd places. On that, I wanted to ask, because I have my favorite moment. I have like two or three favorite moments of the year. They're actually pretty, one is very quite recent actually. What do you guys, all of you, any of you, remember that you remember fondly that was funny, horrifying, awful? I have no idea. Just thought I'd ask what out there that you would think is worth mentioning as a thing that happened as we were reading through everything over the last year. No, no one.
Well, remember or
Yeah, just anything. So my, as an example, my moment is my the man with the highest IQ in the world, I think, came onto our server one day,
An
and
American with the highest IQ.
uh, it, I don't know if there's a difference there given the imperialist nature of IQs.
I can tell you a lot about IQs, by the way. So let me please tell you that they're basically based on favors. They're favor based, so they're very Darwinian concept. So, sorry, Dawkins. Yeah, Darwinian concept is that Darwinian? Well, Dawkins. Anyway, so um, if you like talk nice to people and say of talk encouraging, they have their IQs like get raised a lot. So either it is not very valid in the sense of um, or you are basically just a suck up to people, so I think that people who tend to say that IQs matter are basically
Oh no, no,
pretty
no,
simple.
no, Joe.
So,
I do
no,
not.
no,
I do not believe IQs
factually,
matter at all. I think they're
factually.
stupid. And one day, Chris Langan, a guy named Chris Langan, came into our server. It's his Discord username, and it was not a new Discord user. It was an old name that had been around. It was on a bunch of other servers. You can search for it if you want. Popped in and said, "I have a thesis," and posted it, and a screenshot of it, of all things, and said, "Can anyone disprove this?" And it was this weird, like, I just remember someone, I think someone posted in like pod chat, "Is this guy for real? Like, is this, we have a troll who shows up randomly. Is this him? Is this other person?" And it's like, no, we try to engage everyone in good faith. So I started a conversation, and Webcam Parrot joined. And we started having a conversation with this dude, whoever it was. We don't know that it was Chris Langan. I'm 99% certain it was Chris Langan. And they said some of the most insanely stupid philosophical things I've heard ever. Not engaging in good faith in any way, but no, saying just absurd, dumb, awful shit. And we kept trying to engage in good faith until Chris Langan called me an asshole. And I said, "Well, that's that," and abandoned. Within a few moments, a post was made on Chris Langan's Twitter that said that there is no reasoning with some people. And it was then deleted about 20 minutes later.
Wait, he subtweeted us?
He subtweeted us. Well,
Is
That
it,
knocks it up
is
to
that-
like 99.99%.
it may have been a coincidence. It may have been a random thing.
Is that Vic Bond you're talking about?
Who?
That like Vic Bond dude?
No, this was
No,
this
Chris
was
Langan.
his name was Chris Langan. Like the account's name was Chris Langan, quite literally. And said, "Oh God, I wish I had kept, like, I have the screenshots somewhere. I'll have to make sure I dig them out." But it was like this thing of like, every existence exists. Prove me wrong. And it was like, what? Okay, let's talk. What does exist and what doesn't exist? Like, very simple questions. And he could not.
Dude, I love when we get some fucking like chud random ass conservative person troll like wandering in being like, "Yeah, well, you ever think that, maybe like, these people should just go back to their country? Like they just did this massive checkmate or something." Like checkmate liberals. It's happened to us quite a bunch.
It has. And Chris Langan is probably my favorite because, like, it was just, and I'm still very certain it was him. Like, I'm like, if Chris Langan wrote tomorrow it fucking wasn't me, I would believe it was him even harder. Like, I'm so convinced. But banning him was probably one of my favorite moments on the server ever, because I do think it was him. And man, he's dumb. It's a jackass, psycho. His arguments were bizarre. "Oh, Loomer, you were there. That's right. Holy shit, it was wild. Like, it was wild." Yeah, that was crazy. So that was my one of my favorite moments on the server, to say the least. And, Jack, you mentioned I was having an argument with Craig. Thought?
No, my favorite moment on the server was that discussion you and Carlbot had about that weekend in the cabin.
Jesus Christ, you guys, with that fucking Carlbot shit. Who was the one writing for Carlbot when you did that?
I don't know, man. I'm pretty sure Carlbot speaks for themselves.
Oh, Jesus Christ. It was you or Varun. I'm not stupid.
Do they just go in
I
bot
don't know what
commands
you're
and
talking
like
about.
make Carlbot say dumb shit?
Have a conversation with me. Yes. Tell the story, Jack.
That's funny.
I'd have to find the chats.
We're not going for accuracy. It's okay, embellish.
It's been like 8 months, man. I don't know if I remember. It was something like I have to find it.
Anyone else have a thing?
Actually, a recent one. I gotta say, the music when you first introduced the music channel, we haven't been doing that recently, but for a long time we were talking about how to make kind of like more informal hangouts happen on the server. They happen anyway, but like to make it more of like a a space for people to come. And when we first did the music night and we were just queuing up songs, and then we realized that we had like 6 hours of music queued up in like a matter of 5 minutes. But like I know for myself, like my sleep schedule is always messed up. So like just being, Ben and I have been watching Star Trek late at night, like just being able to come up by and that's when it transcends just like a class that you go to, but it becomes kind of like it feels like a community space where these organic connections happen, and I love that shit, man. It's great.
We've had some interesting people participate in general chat all night. Whatever happened to that PT person that was talking about going to live in their car? Did they get end up?
Oh yeah, I hope they're all right.
Oh shit. Are they living in their fucking car? They are. Oh
If you
fuck, what
are, let
happened
us
to them?
know. You okay, PT?
Oh, I
I
mean,
don't know how to search for their username because they have a bunch of emojis in it, and they're never online, so they don't show up in the user list.
fuck.
Hmm.
Well,
Let's
I
hope
mean,
they're on their journey. One of my good friends would join the circus for many years and like disappeared from the world. So hopefully it could be a Bildungsroman for them.
yeah, it's a whole thing. Jesus.
I found it.
Found what?
The discussion you had with Craigbot about the cabin at the lake.
Oh my god.
It's not loading for me. Oh, there it is.
Brooks, this is like the video you sent me with the Vine saw Vinny and that MMO. Funny. Oh, you know what? I got a moment. Hearing Triad talk in their affable, very erudite German accent about the GIF that Lou sent to the chat with Terrence Blake and other people in our live chat in
Oh,
our voice
Jesus.
channel about the toilet licking your ass. I was like,
Jesus.
yes, this is why this is not an official university classroom, and it's amazing.
That was intense. Yeah, that was good shit. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. Yeah, it's the people we've had come through has been intense, and it's not always been um easy. One of the things that I think,
R.I.P. Chungus.
well, I miss the good trolls. We have a lot of random trolls, not as many as I thought we would have. I mean, I assumed a ton. But we had some really bad, stupid ones. Like I'm a fan of a good troll, and Big Chungus. If you're out there listening, uh, we're not letting you back on the server, but you're missed. Like,
It's a good college try.
yeah, it was solid, like genuinely entertaining for a while until you decided to be. It turned out horny, and that's not cool. Horny, and odd and creepy. That was a little bit much. Uh, and when you're too horny for Deleuze, it's a thing.
There's we had a really lame troll once who joined. They joined. Their name was William James. Their first like intro message was like, "I'm a big fan of this early 1920s ultranationalist German philosopher." You know what I mean? And then they like
Oh, but
go in.
that's not what he said. He named the person, and like he didn't say the whole thing. He said, "I'm a fan of blah blah blah," and none of us knew who it was at first. Like we were like, "What?" And then
He goes into the chat and he's like, "The Civil War was sublime."
yes, holy
I
shit.
remember that. Oh my god.
And then it was like,
So dumb.
wait, what? And so we looked at his intro. I'm like, what? And we Googled the guy's name. It's like, he literally sourced, like, said he was inspired by a Nazi, not like a pseudo Nazi, like a person who was literally in the Nazi party, like an actual Nazi. And it
But
was
this is
like,
what I mean. These fucking like dregs of lit and 4chan who like troll in here. I think they actually think that they're playing like 5D chess and they're like super above all these things. But it's so sad because I think they really, not to think that we're hot shit or anything, but like I think we have that one troll that we all know. I think they really want to be a part. It's like all bullies deep down are just hurt and sad. You know.
no, I think I mean, so the first time our Voldemort, he who shall not be named, showed up, we were in a voice chat and he just came in and started talking. And I demanded of everyone, we engage people in good faith until it's obvious they aren't. And it was it was interesting because he was slightly morose and he tried to be like edgelord. The problem is that people who are into Deleuze, like, I'm not going to say we're not sensitive people, but like you can't really edgelord Deleuze people. Like that's not how it works. Our edge is a different place, and so it was just this weird, like he kept trying to go and go and go, and it didn't work. And then finally it was like, oh fuck, you're trolling. And it was just a ban. It was like it happened in like 20 seconds. It was like, oh wait, you're just a troll. Pop. And then they've never stopped coming back.
Something like 300 accounts, right? They've
Yep.
been banned like 300 times.
300 accounts. Yep.
Maybe it's like a Manichaean cosmology, where like we can't exist without this other force perpetually,
Yeah.
in cosmic combat, like Gilgamesh
Yeah.
and
I'll
Keto.
I'll I'll buy that. Not at all, but sure.
We should have like a server count, like statistics, like the ones that are at the bottom, for that, like how many times they have been banned. But yeah, I do believe they have a miserable life. I sometimes think like, maybe I should pray a rosary for them, because so they can like find a better way of living, because that sounds really sad, and I just want everyone to be happy from my little Catholic heterodoxia.
I would do a prayer vigil for Chungus first because Chungus genuinely said things that made me actually laugh. Like, and I think everyone here this is true of. There were a handful of, when he started saying, I'll explain Deleuze to you for $1. Here's my Cash App. Like, and it was just like, holy shit. It was great. Like, there were some moments where it was like, he responded to some people were asking questions by saying, if you give me $1, I'll tell you the answer. Just like, there were some good moments that were like, it was just made me laugh. And then, sadly, he went sexual. But, the stuff that makes me actually most sad is there is, and I will say it plainly for all to hear, if you ever say that Deleuze and Guattari want us to be schizophrenic or that the schizophrenic is actually the ideal person, go fuck yourself. Just go fuck yourself. Um, Schizophrenia is a horrifying disease, a mental illness for people. And
That conversation crops up a couple of times.
it does. And the worst part is the people who actually come who are schizophrenic. And hands down, I've almost cried twice having like I was in one group. It was a second reading group that we were kind of associated with for a bit. And this poor woman was like, well, I've been suffering from schizophrenia for 10 years, and I'm looking to this book to see if it can help me. And I just wanted to go, sweetheart, no, this is not, do not do this. Do not do this.
But to be fair, I think also one of the nice things is that I think what we've been able to create unintentionally or otherwise, I'd like to think somewhat intentionally, is we do have a lot of people on all kinds of spectrums on the server, and it's never easy, but I think it's nice to see, like, there are people who I've spoken to on the server. I have my own history with mental health stuff, who have been through either, whether it's schizophrenia itself or other kinds of mental health issues or neurodivergent in some way. And it's great to be in a space where you're not immediately pathologized and you're able to engage in those things. I think I agree with you. As long as we're not under the pretense that this is not a clinical space, this is not a space to give out fake medical advice or try and fix people or any of that stuff. But I think
I think
there is
that,
this, yeah.
that can I interject for a second, because that's what I like to do, to interject that. Um, I usually only interject. So look, people with schizophrenia are usually not that much victims. There are also a lot of perpetrators who do pretty scary shit and violent shit in psychosis. So to say, that they break your heart and shit is uh, pretty usual, I suppose, on a server like this, where people show you their best side. But to have met people, who are violent and threatening, and schizophrenic, is a side which is pretty casual, in like clinics and with psychologists and psychiatrists, and basically people revolving around the schizophrenic. But they don't need to be pitied as much as is the I think a fair of a fair mid ground, or how do you say that? Like it's something that Deleuze and pretty much clinicians both agree on.
Well,
If the clinicians are evil and Deleuze is good, then I think they both have some sense in, or there is some sense in saying that the schizos do not need to be victimized, but to be like discriminated in a sense,
oh
which
no,
is
no.
of
So
course
again,
it's going too
so
far.
I don't think
Oh,
that this is not at all. I think what like for us, it's very simple. It's we're anyone who's neurodivergent or odd or whatever. Like that's not the issue. Well, I think actually we do have a handful of people who are really functioning schizophrenics who are fairly involved with the server, and I'm actually really proud of that. And to Alyosha's point, from day one, we've been very open and very interactive and really, caring. It's not about pity at all. It's about it's the same thing if I was teaching a class and someone came in with cancer. It's a sickness. It's a thing that needs to be addressed for what it is, not pitied. It's they're a person. Treat them like a person with an illness. Treat them like a human being. However, uh, the reason that they tend to be attracted to spaces like ours is because of the shitty memes and the shitty people out there who say that, oh, I want to be a schizophrenic. Stupid garbage. And we get someone like the first person who was ever like the first time we ever started being like, oh shit, what do we have here? Because we blew up. We had 500 people within like a week. It was crazy. And we got one user who his username was international terrorist. If you remember this,
Yeah, I was really uncomfortable with that actually.
and
I
it
remember
was,
that.
and it was like, okay. And I talked to him, and he's a very lovely guy. And a lot of that conversation is obviously private, but he was a very lovely guy, and I was just like, hey, why the name? And he's like, because that's what they think I am, so that's the name I'm gonna give. And it was like, okay, it's not as easy as just having a conversation with a person. You've got to be really careful. You've got to be really caring. And he was outright saying someone told him specifically that anti-Oedipus would help him understand his illness. And
But can I just say though, I think also, I think even beyond framing it in terms of sickness, because there's a thing of there's a great organization in the UK called the Hearing Voices Network, and their whole thing is like trying to give a space where people who experience these symptoms and are schizophrenics and whatnot can sort of feel like I'm a person, I experience these things, and whatever psychological, political, theological framework you want to do to explain why I'm experiencing them, this is a thing and it's real. But I think, yeah, beyond that, like even to Joe Gilman's point, like I have worked with people with schizophrenia who've directly attacked me and tried to kill me in homeless shelters and stuff like that. And I don't think it's mutually exclusive. Like you have to be real about community safety and you have to not, sell a lie about what you're able to do. But I don't think that pity and empathy are the same thing. And I think it's fine for us to feel for people. We shouldn't condescend them, but I think also this is what's there are, you can legitimately engage with this material as long as we understand what we're doing here. And I think trying to be inclusive of people with all these weird and different experiences that we're not used to, it's a good thing. In a university classroom, a lot of people would be kicked out of a space like this immediately as soon as they started behaving in a particular way. And because of what we are, we can offer people a different outlet, and it doesn't mean it works out for everyone. And just because someone's going through symptoms doesn't mean they're immediately going to be permitted or whatever it is if they're going through an episode. Like, we have community standards and whatnot, but it's just, I don't think we have to make such a dichotomy. If you read about Guattari's
Fair.
life at the Laborde
Fair.
Clinic,
No, it's not the dichotomy. We are welcoming to everyone. It's more just me having my angry moment of saying, don't, please stop telling people that this is the book
no,
to
no,
help
no.
them with their illness. Like,
I-
that's
I'm aggressively agreeing with you in a sense. I just wanted to end saying that when you read about Guattari's life and like that great biography, the Intersecting Lives one, you read about how the clinic worked. The whole point was integrating people into a community. It's like what our society does is it isolates people and then blames them for the way that they're behaving.
yes.
You can still hold people responsible for their behavior, and if they're not a good fit, fine. But what they did at Laborde, there's lots of crazy and horrible shit that happened there. But there's a reason why it should be studied, I think, because they did something that's extremely unique and allowed people who would normally be locked up in institutions like forever to participate on a level that I think is just, we can't. It's almost hard for us to conceive of it now.
So
We've
has
almost gone backwards.
has
Is
everyone seen Typical Follies? You know, because that's I think what you're talking about basically.
We I think we should watch on a movie night. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Joe, but I have that movie, and I think it would be lovely to hear what you guys think about it, because it's a difficult documentary to watch, but it deals with mental illness and mental institutions, and it's really, like, I think foundational for what we're speaking from a cinematic viewpoint. So please go ahead. I just want to do a movie night with that movie for since ever.
Hmm. Yeah, I think that's a pretty important one, and maybe the most essential documentary on the subject. If you take it as on face value, which I think is pretty empathic, matter of fact. But um, I'm not saying that empathy is not important. I'm more denouncing violence um, than being uh, um, antipathetic and antipathetic, whatever. And I think that it is pretty common that violence is not an yeah, how do you say, aspect of schizoanalysis. I mean, it's more um, I mean, the barbaric is violence, the war machine is violence, but it is not direct violence. It is still thought of violence. And thought of violence is, of course, don't. I hope people don't forget it. It is still um, a bit further off than the real violence, which hurts. You can philosophize endlessly, think everything, about war machines and about the barbaric and about aspects of, I think, pain, masochism, sadism, but there are, of course, no limits to that. And I think that there are no limits doesn't mean that empathy is always the right answer to, of the right response to violence, is my opinion. But anyway, I think that there is, of course, a certain stigma which needs to be um, changed, and I think that if you want to change the stigma and use the terms, politically correct, there is nothing wrong with that. But um, I have been I've been in a little scaffles, I suppose, and done violence to myself also, and I'm not schizophrenic, but I just think on both sides, as somebody that has hurt himself in the past, as somebody that attacked people in the past, as somebody that has been attacked in the past, knowing all three sides, I think it's a pretty fair conclusion, and I think, and I want to say that in all these three aspects, what for me was central, how selfish that is, you must imagine, is the learning aspect, and it was not for in any way to profit anybody else. So I just feel shame about that mostly. So what good would empathy do for me? It would be little, and of course empathy comes from the self. So if you want my empathy, it is then of course also little. So that is where I come from, and I hope that clears it up a little bit if there was any how do you say this um, noise, aesthetic noise about that, from my end. So yeah, I think that violence is something that again should be affiliated with acting more than um, philosophizing. And I don't know, maybe for Americans that sentiment can be a little bit different because, of course, we Europeans don't have like gun regulation, and if we have gun regulation and don't have like weapons that can kill at hand, supposedly. So I don't know. I think that's kind of interesting, to explore. But yeah, then I also could just read the Sade and explore that myself to not bother anyone. But please cut me off if things get less interesting, I suppose.
So fair. uh, yeah. Um, it's been I don't even know where to start after that. It was back and forth. Uh, anyone else have a great moment after all that? I don't even know. Um, no, I mean we've got so we have
Yes, I
so.
do.
Oh, Elena, please.
Yeah, I've had really wonderful moments in this server, but the first one that comes to mind is really wholesome and it involves Alyosha and Lou, who isn't here. But yeah, I'm corny like that, but I just I'm happy lately, so I'm expressing all of my love and also to the server because I remember I actually joined the server like when like it was first created, and I remember like washing my dishes one day while you guys were talking about material psychiatry, and I was like, oh, but then like shit hit the fan and I had class at that time, and then I saw a notification when back in the day when we add everyone all the time that there was going to start a Bergson group, and I really love Bergson. So I was like, no, this is the time I have to get out of my head and get out of my uni classes. So I'm going to join that Bergson group. And I remember I was really, really scared because like I'm not dumb in Spanish. I don't think so. But in English, I am, and in regards to philosophy, I am because I'm really new to like this whole rodeo and reading philosophy like this and talking about philosophy like this. So I was really happy because one of the first times I interacted, like I spoke through voice chat was with Alyosha, and I was like, if I can make like a little digression, I think that this thing can be like associated with like the colonial thought, and Glissant and Alyosha was all celebratory with me, and it was really nice to know that you guys like that kind of pluralist thinking. And because for me, for example, reading the list, like it's really difficult not to read the list as a criticism of colonial thinking. It's like the first reading that comes to mind for me. So like finding a space of people that are like mostly from the first world. I'm sorry if I'm generalizing here. It's just my experience, where I can be like, oh no, but colonialism bad, and like have feedback and like really good conversations. That has been really nice. And I really remember that because Alyosha was, oh, don't worry, we're all about digressions. So now I just like I take the mic and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm Chris Marker, and I give like long rants about nothing all day. But you guys uh like stand me. So I'm really thankful, and I'm really thankful because now my agenda is ever more cosmopolitan and more like international, and to think in pluralist terms, also in terms of culture. So yeah, thank you guys for letting me have this opportunity and like this really nice and productive encounter with the other.
It's really nice, Elena. Thanks for saying that. But I can't help but think this is like that Nabokov quote. What did he say? Where he's like, "Oh, my Russian is like a palace, and my English is just like a little dacha or something." Like Elena's saying that they can't express themselves in English. I'm like, are you kidding me? Then what in Spanish? It's got to be just like diamonds. They're just spitting diamonds.
Well, I don't know. Actually, I try to speak better with you guys because usually my comments in Spanish about philosophy tend to be really put in colloquial terms and like in really like in slang. I only talk about philosophy in slang with my friends and stuff. So now I have you guys give me like some creative limits so that my thinking can be kind of director some way. Basically, I have said that actually.
Let's one of the things I think that has been interesting as well is that most of these spaces, especially philosophy ones, are, I mean, all white dudes, and it's been really nice having uh, trans women, having cis women, having uh, non-binary, having like everyone who's involved. Again, we have an odd diversity that, you know, we could be probably more diverse for sure, but um, it's been really nice to sort of see how it goes and how and who joins. I've been really encouraged by it. Just myself. I don't know. Any last singular thoughts anyone wants to share? Any random shit that's going on? Any, because we hit a year and we're about to you know, we're in the middle of Logic of Sense. We have a dozen reading groups going. We have, and that's just for Foucault.
I have a little note on the logic of sense that that whole book I've read it in English. Of course, it's not. My French is not that good, and there is no Dutch copy. And it gave me like this Alice in Wonderland complex. I don't know if anyone has heard about that.
Mm-hmm.
But I suppose that if you do it in a group, it's like maybe more advisable. But to have like Alice in Wonderland syndrome, you see like small things turn big and big things turn small. And I've gotten over that a while ago, but it's a really weird. Like after reading that, I quickly like perceived that, and I kept it for some years, which just popped up sometimes, which was kind of strange. But yeah, I don't know. I just a little advice, and I'm wondering if like I'm very much interested in pursuing nihilism in a pretty anti-dogmatic sense for nihilism, which is like a very um, fetishistic part of philosophy generally, certainly on like, like Reddits and I think on Discord also people don't take it seriously at all, and that's very fine with me. Um, but just for my personal perspective, I'd like to further engage with Partij, and yeah, I hope to. I'm going to do that soon, like to 5 weeks, I suppose. And yeah, I'll see where that
Well,
turns me.
that's
But
no, that's going to be a thing we're
um,
looking forward to. Like as we start growing, the server's been. I mean,
Brooks,
we're.
Brooks, let me finish. Let me
Oh,
finish. I
oh,
was done.
I was interrupting.
You were interrupting, and you weren't saying you were interjecting something. So I take that personally, um, because we all like to. I like to interject, and interjecting is fine with me. But just interrupting, that's really not on. So what I was trying to say is that in the logic of sense, what came up so was the Alice in Wonderland syndrome, which was kind of a surprise for me personally, and maybe sound ridiculous. But I'm wondering what Bataille will bring up, and if it's worse or less worse. I hope less worse because it was pretty sucky, to have like objects turn big and small objects turn big and big objects turn small. Because that's pretty distracting and actually kind of scary, because yeah, I don't know, like it's yeah, I won't get too poetic about it, but it's just not a very a casual way of approaching life, but I don't know what Bataille will bring up. I'm rather unfamiliar with him, but I've read a lot of people he inspired. So yeah, I am generally curious, and I have also a little help with like people who have more knowledge than me. So yeah, that's nice. But again, I'm wondering if you already found maybe some like hindrances to of maybe not hindrances, but like curious little aspects of sense of logic that I missed because I can't make the readings. It's a bit lately, certainly with like the time.
Well, I mean, so
Um,
you will
yeah,
have all of them are recorded. I'm taking a little bit more time editing these and doing something a little bit more fun than just normally, which is just me cutting out dead air or ums or random side noise and editing down the audio. This is actually I'm cutting up things to make it a little bit more digestible and a little bit more interesting, so that audio will all be there. And there's a good amount of it actually, which is nice. So you'll have a chance. But the reading of Logic of Sense I found to be amazing, actually, because it quickly became one of my favorite Deleuze books about halfway through Anti-Oedipus because it was referenced. I got the PDF and then I picked up a couple copies. I've bought it 3 times. I only got one copy. Amazon. Um, and uh, it's been very, I think, for me, it's been a good time to say the least. Um, for sure. But yeah, I know. I think
Hey, Ben, are you gonna do any Star Trek? I don't know if
Do
Ben's
you
there.
want me to do Star Trek or do you
I,
want
I
me to
think
do Babylon 5?
I think
Oh,
we've hit the hour. I'm gonna say just let me go ahead and close out and just say thank you guys for joining and thanks for being a part of the server. It's been a ride and it's a cathartic moment to be able to say that we hit a year, and we don't seem to be slowing down, which is nice. Even though I seem to be slowing down, my 3-year-old has been running around all day, and I feel dead. So, but, yeah.